today I am talking about something that has become a very recent hot topic in my life. If you've been on my channel for a little bit, you would know that I recently got a full-time job. At the beginning of this year, I started working for a nonprofit as a communications coordinator, and I now work the 9-to-5 life as most humans do. Before that, I was unable to work because I was in the midst of immigrating to the United States. So I got married, moved from Canada. I'm not gonna go into all the details, okay? I'm Canadian, but I live in Florida. I moved here because I got married. So now that I work 9 to 5, I'm constantly in a state of how the heck do people get writing done with this schedule on top of all the other responsibilities that life has in store for me? Like, how do you do this? That's why we're here today to talk about how the heck you can balance your life and your writing goals. My name is Charlotte and I am an aspiring fantasy author. I started this channel honestly to meet other writers and readers. I don't have a lot of people in my life who are doing what I'm doing, and so I just really wanted to hop on YouTube and make content that encourages people to engage with each other over the things we love, such as fantasy novels and other cool stuff, and writing. So if you're in a similar boat as me, and if you are also just interested in supporting my journey, I would love it if you would subscribe to my channel. You can also follow me on social media at Charlotte E. Craig Writes. And there's news. I started a new Instagram account, author Charlotte E. Craig. And that's my author account. So if you want more content specifically about my book, definitely go follow that. My TikTok is also now author Charlotte E. Craig, but you can find all that information down below. And let's just get into today's video. I have watched a lot of videos and done a lot of research on this just for my own benefit. And so these top tips are like a culmination of other people's tips that I've heard. So this is not super original content, but it is going to kind of shift through some of the advice that I thought might not be super helpful or just wasn't super helpful to me. And so these are just my favorite tips and what I've seen really working in order to get me to write more consistently and make it a habit in my life. So let's get into my top tips on how to balance your work life and writing. I will preface that this doesn't include the marketing portion of writing. I don't know how to do that yet. I'm not ready to talk about that. If you have tips on how to do that, I would really appreciate you let me know in the comments, because that's a whole other ballgame. Like, writing is not just, oh yeah, let me sit and write my cute little stories. Writing is like 20% of your job. Marketing is 80%. So the business is 80%, which I don't like that. And if you really don't like that, maybe you should consider just writing for fun and publishing for fun instead of trying to make it a career, to be honest. I think it was Brandon Sanderson who really validated this for me. Your writing does not have to be a career if you don't want it to be. And I'm gonna preface that with everything I say here. I'm really talking to people who want to do something with their writing in the sense of making an income off of it. And these tips might work for you too if writing is just something you enjoy and you want to just, publish a book to have on your shelf that you wrote and that you accomplished, maybe to pass on to your children or to your nieces and nephews. Like, these tips aren't specific to the people that are trying to make a career out of writing or make an income out of their writing. However, I am in that boat, so if I'm talking in that way, that's why. So I just want to preface that you are valid if you do not want to make your writing your career. And I think it's really cool if you continue to just, give your time to this, whether it's just to make yourself feel good or to gift others something beautiful. Like, that's amazing. So keep doing that if that's what you feel called to do. So tip number 1 is what I like to call kill the all or nothing mindset. Basically what this means is that you can't approach your writing with 112% one day and then give 0% the next day. If you have scheduled a time for you to write and something happens that throws that time off and you have to move it an hour later, it is so easy to look at that and to just be like, okay, I'm just not gonna write. I'm just not gonna look at my manuscript. I'm just not gonna do it. That is what I'm talking about. That's called an all or nothing mindset. And I think that that is one of the main things that keeps a lot of writers who work full-time from actually accomplishing their writing goals, because we think that we have to sit down for massive chunks of time to get the words in. And like, I'm one of those people that I do need like 2 to 4 hours to really get into a flow state, but I've had to really accept that that is not realistic for my life, especially during the week. Most weekends I can get maybe up to 4 hours. Sometimes even then, like, life is still busy outside of work with like social obligations, family obligations. For me, like, I have some church obligations and other stuff like that. So, and we just have these other responsibilities that still take place outside of work. So you can't just approach your writing project with the mindset of either I'm going to work for 12 hours or I'm not going to do anything at all. Every little word that you put into your project, or every little idea that you continue to flesh out towards your project, whether you're in the drafting stage, revisions, whether you're still making an outline or brainstorming, all of that work and time you put into your project will add up to a completed book. So you need, and I say this as someone who really does struggle with this and who very recently got over this mindset and had to really drill it into my head that like a little bit can still go a long way. Writing is called a journey for a reason, and it's because there's little steps. Like, it's a long game. Okay, some people can write books in 3 months. And honestly, if I didn't have this all or nothing mindset, and if I managed my time really well, I might have finished my book very fast, but also that's not realistic for everyone, so keep that in mind as well. But basically, I think you really need to just train yourself to understand that you need to take your writing in bite-sized pieces, especially when you're working long hours. Like, I work 8 to 4, which is still an 8-hour day. I don't really take a lunch break. I should, but I just don't. I'd rather just get off. Like, it interrupts my workflow. I try my best. If you're working a job that's like physically draining or super mentally draining, which most jobs are, like, I work doing creative things all day. Like, the last thing I want to do when I get home is sit and work my brain in the same capacity. It's slightly different, but I'm still exercising those similar muscles. I'm tired. I just want to watch TV. I just want to go to bed. But I had to really come to understand that writing is habitual, and taking those bite-sized pieces and not waiting for the opportunity for me to have 4 hours to devote to my project is what's gonna help me finish my book. Tip number 2, I would say, is to set low goals for yourself during the week. For me personally, I don't do word count goals. It really stresses me out. And I find that if I have a word count goal, my writing, like, the quality is so bad because I'm just concerned about meeting a specific word count. I much prefer to give myself chapter or section goals for each week. And honestly, I'm even still working up to that. I set a goal for writing just 30 minutes every day. Sometimes I exceed it and sometimes I don't, but either way, I'm still working on my project for that designated time. And for me, 30 minutes is nothing. 30 minutes is so short. And I know people that do it for 20 minutes. Some people do it for like 10 minutes. You know what I mean? Like, I think it's just really good to assess the time that you have outside of work and outside of your other responsibilities and think about how you can fit writing within those windows of time. Maybe for you that looks like writing for 30 minutes after work, or maybe before work, or maybe you split it up into chunks throughout your day. Maybe you're working, 30 minutes for work, 30 minutes after work, and then that gives you a whole hour of writing. Or maybe you do it in like little increments. Maybe like you do like 10 minutes here, 10 minutes there, which if you can do that, I applaud you. That's skill. Setting the bar low for yourself during the week and being extremely mindful of the fact that your job is going to drain you and you are physically and mentally not going to be able to give most of yourself to your writing throughout the week. I think it's really important that you're setting those minimal goals so that you can feel like you've accomplished something and made progress. And for me, the biggest thing I think that has encouraged me a lot is the fact that I set that minimum goal and I always overachieve. And so I think that just being kind to yourself and being realistic is honestly super key when it comes to actually writing consistently and building out that routine.
Tip number 3 is to plan your time and stick to it.
Hi, so something happened to my footage and we're missing clips. I don't know what happened. I don't know where they went. But essentially what I'm talking about in this section of the video is that one of the key ingredients comes to building a writing routine where you can be consistent and successful, part of that is making time in your schedule around your job and around your other responsibilities to write. I know that sounds like really stupid the way I just said that, but what I'm saying is that you need to pick when you're going to sit down and write, and you need to make sure that you're sticking to that routine. For some people, it does look like writing for 30 minutes every day. For some people, it looks like writing every other day. For some people, it could look different, right? And that depends on how you best work creatively. So for me, I noticed that consistency is key. But for some people, they might be more able to work in like creative spurts. And so their routine and what they choose to stick to is going to look different than mine. Now, for some people, that actually might be the way that you work. Like some people work best in creative spurts. So maybe you have like a solid 2 weeks where you do go hard, and then you have 2 weeks off. But as long as you're maintaining some kind of consistency with your writing, I think it is really important to plan for that. So maybe for 2 weeks you focus on drafting, and then 2 weeks you focus on marketing or your other hobbies or your other responsibilities. The purpose is just to really just allot that time to your writing. Let the people in your household know, hey, at 8 p.m. I have to write for an hour for this whole week. So during that time, that is my time. Protecting your time is really difficult, and it is really hard too when it's like you want to give your time to other people and other things. But if you really do want to get your writing done, it is important that you make it a priority in your daily habits and routines. And it's also important for you to surround yourself with people who understand that, and maybe not understand it, but who support you and support what you are trying to achieve. Tip number 4 is let yourself decompress. Now, this is something that I am horrible at. I am just a go, go, go kind of person, and it really bites me in the little two booty cheeks because I burn out. Shocking. By the end of the night, if I get home and I don't give myself at least like 20 minutes to just read or wind down or like watch a show, have a good meal, like I will not go into writing with that motivation and with like a fresh mindset. Like I will literally be struggling to write, and some days I still do, even when I do give myself time to decompress. But I think, especially because my job is very like mental forward, that it is really important for me to give myself that time to just wind down between work and a writing session. And that looks different. Sometimes it does mean I'm going to cook dinner and take care of other chores, and like that's cool. That actually like really helps me with my personal writing process. But it also can look like, you know, me sitting down and reading, or talking with my husband, or talking to my family. I don't know, it can look so different. And I think having those few hours to just separate work and writing is really crucial. I have this running joke with myself that I always think about posting on TikTok. I get so self-conscious posting on TikTok, so I don't think I'm ever gonna do it. So I'm just gonna share it here. But you know, the like switching sides sound that was trending on TikTok for like the longest time. That's what I think of every time I get off work. Every time I get off work and I know I'm either gonna write or do like marketing stuff for writing, I feel like a secret agent. Like I'm like stripping off my like little work badge and whatever, coming home, going on my home computer and still working, but not working for my actual job. That might have been really lame now that I say it out loud, but honestly, I still think it's really funny, and it's something actually that helps me separate mentally from work and my writing. So sometimes I think I'm funny, and then I say crap to you guys out loud, and I just wonder, like, I'm actually like, is she funny? I don't know. Tip number 5 is utilize your breaks at work. If you get multiple breaks throughout your job, like if you get a 15 and a 30, use them to write. Like use that time to just put in a few words. I know some people get an hour lunch break. If you have an hour lunch break, that's an hour that you could use to write, and then you can go home and do whatever you want if that's your goal. Also, maybe that hour break doesn't look like actually putting words into your manuscript. Maybe it looks like planning what you're going to write later in the day. I personally don't really take a break like that during the day. I still take breaks, but like I don't take a huge chunk of a break because it really disrupts my creativity. So what I do is I take 5 minutes every hour to either stretch my neck because I have posture issues, you know, just daily writer problems. I usually either take it to stretch, go for a stroll around the office. A lot of the times I'll use it to either journal or read. And so for 5 minutes, I just take time to myself to just breathe and do something else. And then I go back to work. I don't know if that will work for you, but that's what's been working for me. I personally don't think I can write on the job. However, I have done that in the past and not on my breaks. I don't recommend that either. I never got in trouble for it, but I'd imagine some people do. But if you have Google Docs and you use Google Docs to write, or maybe in the morning you upload your Scrivener file to Google Docs, I think you could put in a few words on the clock, depending on your job. I didn't tell you to do it, okay? You can do what you want, but I'm just saying, you could put in some words while you're at your desk if you just had it on Google Drive. Just a thought. Sometimes I do work on marketing stuff during like my 5-minute breaks, but I'm not really like knee deep in marketing yet. I'm still trying to figure it out. Still trying to figure out how to balance that with writing and all the other stuff in my life. I think what I'm trying to say is like understanding the pockets of time that you have and figuring out how you can use them to your advantage. And maybe that does look like taking a break, but maybe it looks like alternating that. Maybe it looks like using that time to pour into your dreams and to do something that makes you feel fulfilled and that, you know, you just really enjoy doing. Tip number 6 is use your weekends to your advantage. I love sleep, and my husband and I have been waking up at 4:30 a.m. to go to the gym 4 days out of the week. On the weekends, I would love to stay in bed past 8 a.m. and just get rest. And sometimes I do, but I'll be honest, my body naturally is waking up at like 7 and I have not been fighting it. Instead, I'm taking my laptop, I'm immediately going and grabbing a coffee, and I'm sitting down on the couch and I'm working on my book first thing in the morning. And sometimes I'm hashing out almost 4 hours of work. For me, it's like, it's something I can look forward to on the weekends. Like now that I'm working like full-time work hours, I look forward to sitting down to write because that's work that I am doing for myself and that is working towards something that I really want to happen for myself, which is to share my books with people. Utilizing my weekends, like I just find that I'm looking forward to the times that I have to write, and a lot of the times it is that morning on a Saturday. Or for me, like I go to church on Sundays at like 11, so I get up early and I spend 2 hours writing. And maybe later in the day if I have time I will write, but it's so important for me to use that time in the mornings on my weekends because I have other stuff that goes on during the weekends too. Like I still have to socialize with people. It is not normal for you to be a hermit, okay? Like it's cool for you to be alone. Like I'm an introvert, I understand. I need my time by myself to recover and energize. And like for writing, like yes, it's important that you prioritize having time by yourself so that you can work on your project, but it is also so important that you are still maintaining the other aspects of your life. And one of those things is your relationships and rest and the other things that you enjoy. You need to think of your writing in the sense of like longevity as well. So for me, my priority is making writing a habitual task. And maybe that means that it takes me longer to write books or publish books or what have you, but I think it's just really crucial and really important that people also think about the longevity of their career or their craft. One of the ways that I do that is by utilizing bites of time, as I've said a million times in this video, but on my weekends too, it's also just enjoying myself and, you know, taking that time to write and to work on my goals, but also taking time to be a human being and to experience things so that I can enrich the content that I'm putting out. And finally, the 7th tip is to give yourself grace. I am horrible at this, and that's something I think you see a pattern here. Most of these things I am just learning, and I think that's really important for me to emphasize in this video because I'm not coming to you as an expert. I'm coming to you as someone who, you know, I have had training in creative writing. They never talked about how to balance writing with your 9 to 5. I think that should have been in my curriculum, to be honest. But I'm not coming at you as an expert or someone who has completely mastered this. I've personally written, I think, 3 books in my life, and I published one of my really early ones, which was The Winds of Destiny. I don't think I'm that experienced in my personal opinion. I think if you're coming here as like a new writer or someone who is interested in writing, or someone who's like me, has been writing for years, but is like in the last few years has like really been trying to take it seriously, I'm coming to you as someone who understands and who is in like a very similar boat of like, I'm just trying to figure it out. And I think a lot of people on here are, and I just want to emphasize that because again, like none of these tips are super original. Like I got a lot of these from people on Instagram when I asked that question, and I was just genuinely curious, and it inspired me to make this video. So I'm just sharing with you some of the tips that have been working for me. And one of the things that I think has been a big takeaway for me, especially this year with all the changes that I've been through, especially since starting working a full-time job, is to give myself grace and to be kind to myself, and to understand that my identity is not wrapped up in the fact that I'm a writer. There's so many different aspects to myself and to my life that are just as beautiful and fulfilling. If I miss a day of writing, I can make up for it another day. I can just take that time to rest. Like if it's really not happening, it's not happening, and that's okay. Somehow the words will get in, somehow it will get done. I think it's just really important that you understand that you are doing a hard thing. Creating is so vulnerable, writing is so vulnerable, and it's so hard. Like writing, if you're writing fiction, it's hard. And I think that's something we don't credit ourselves for, because we go online and we see a million people doing the same thing, and we sit there and we compare ourselves and we wonder, well, they've written this many books, how come I haven't? Everyone's life is different, everyone's brains are different, everyone's motivations are different. It's really just a game of figuring out what works for you. But that's where the grace comes in, I think, is that this is something you enjoy. This is something that you're doing because you love it. Like there's no pressure. And I think like, especially if you're not on a deadline with a publishing house or a personal deadline or what have you, like enjoy the process, enjoy writing your book, build these habits and build these routines so that when the time comes, if that is what you want, to get an agent, to publish traditionally or even self-publish, like if you want that kind of schedule with your writing and that kind of regiment with your writing, then these are a lot of the tips that have worked for me to try and implement writing into my daily life and to help me be consistent and to balance it with the rest of my life. And it takes a lot. It's not easy. Like after I film this video, I have to go write for 30 minutes, and I'm just thinking about how much I don't want to do that. But at the end of the day, I do want to do that. And so I think coming back to your motivation and the purpose and reason why you're writing is extremely important, and that will help you be gracious to yourself. And I think too, it helps because it reminds you that writing is a journey. It's not a sprint. It takes a long time. It takes a lot of patience and a lot of perseverance to be a writer and to be a creative. And so I just want to validate that you are doing a good job. Don't be discouraged. Just remember that this is hard. Don't give up. Just keep going. Cue epic music here. Thank you so much for watching this video, and I post videos every month. That is subject to change. I can't make any promises though because my schedule is crazy. Thanks again. I will see you in my next video. Bye.